Hello. This is Robin Sampson with BibleJournalLove.com. Today you're going to watch me Bible Journal digitally with the 12 Spies digital kit. This is also available in printable when you take the Exodus era class. This is lesson 3.3c. I wanted to remind you, if you got this, to also be sure to look, because there was a bonus that included 3 verses, a tag, and some elements. So don't miss the elements. These are available digitally and printable. It's in your class downloads. So I thought I would start with this background. It's a nice watercolor landscape background that could be from the 12 Spies land. And I've already loaded the elements in the photo bin. So since I have some clusters, I think If you didn't take the class and you're not familiar with the 12 Spies story, this is after Mount Sinai, when the Israelites were traveling to go to the land of Canaan, the promised land. And they get to the border, and Moses chooses 12 spies to send out to see what the land is like. They were to find out what the people were like, what the land was like, how fertile it was, and how the cities were fortified. Well, he sent out one of the leaders from each of the 12 tribes, except for the Levites. And when they came back, they reported that the land was wonderful. They brought back all kinds of fruit. I'm going to include the grapes in this to remind us of the fruit they brought back. But 10 of the spies doubted whether the Israelites would be able to take it by force. 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, from the tribe of Judah, they're the only spies that urged the people to proceed with the conquest and take the land that God had promised them. And God gets very upset that they didn't have enough faith at this point. I'm just trying out some different backgrounds and whatnot playing around here. So God got very upset, and for their lack of faith, Yahweh decrees that the generation of this Exodus, everyone over 19 years old except for Joshua and Caleb, will die in the wilderness. And the people will wander 40 years, 1 year for each day of the 40 days that the spies had spent spying. And this story is in Numbers 13 and 14. Only Joshua and Caleb would be spared the punishment. And then the spies, who incited the people to grumble against God, received immediate punishment, and they all died of a plague. Right after that, God told, one of the other things God said at that point when he told them about the punishment is he told them not to attack the people. He told them to go another route by the Red Sea. Well, don't you know that they went ahead and went out right away and attacked the people? So, and of course they were defeated. So it's just amazing how many times these people did not trust God. But God continued to bless them. And this prayer, please pardon the iniquity of this people, is the prayer that Moses said because God was so angry he was going to wipe all them out. And then he prayed this prayer to God, and he reminded him of his loving, faithful kindness, and how if he did take the people out now, that it would look bad for him. I'm just pulling everything around to see how I want to get these 2 verses and what I want to use for backgrounds. So here's the prayer. Please pardon the iniquity of this people according to your greatness of your steadfast love, just as you have forgiven the people from Egypt until now. He's asking for grace and mercy again for about the umpteenth time because they've grumbled this whole entire journey. Okay, I decided I want to put the prayer on the other side and make it smaller. The other verse I'm using is from Psalm 118. It's better to trust in the Lord than put confidence in man. And that verse he's talking about 3 times in Psalms 118 about how He's surrounded by his enemies, but he's putting his trust in the Lord. And I just thought that that verse fit here real well because Joshua and Caleb put their trust in God, not in man. And that's what God had tried to show them the entire time through this story was after they had already gone to battle, after they left the promised land, after God opened the Red Sea and they went through, after God gave them the manna, and after God provided the water from the rock, and then they were at Mount Sinai, and they actually, many of them saw God and saw his presence at the middle of the mountain, the 70 who went up. So they had all these signs and wonders to hope and trust in, that God had saved them over and over and over and supplied them. And then when Moses held his hands up when they were in their first battle, they won the battle as long as Moses' hands were up, glorifying God. And then when he put his hands down from fatigue, he would start to lose the battle. And just showing them that when they worked in union with God, that everything would be all right. And that's what this verse is about, trusting in God, which is what Joshua and Caleb did. No matter how big the people looked, even if they were giants, even if it made them look like grasshoppers, they knew that they could take the land because God had promised to them. Now, the other 10 spies, they were doing what they were taught to do, to go out and analyze and observe, but they limited their thinking to human understanding. And I think that they might have even wondered if this was really the land God wanted them to have. But obviously it was, because Moses told them it was, and they should have trusted Moses by now. But instead they turned to Moses, said that we don't need him as a leader, let's go. And they even started planning to go back to Egypt and getting rid of Moses and getting another leader. So that's why God was so upset, because here he had showed him, they rejected his help. They rejected the land. They didn't have a trust in him after he'd showed them over and over and over. And then after Moses pled with him, he said, I won't wipe you out as a people, but this generation is history. So he allows them to wander the 40 years as the older generation dies off, and only the people under 20 are the ones that will live and will start off this new land. I decided to put a tag. I really like this tag, so I'm going to put that there. And I think I'm going to have to go get a ribbon from another kit. So I'm just moving the text around and this word art to fit into this tag. And what I'm trying to do is focus on trusting in the Lord, not man, and then Moses' prayer to God to spare his people. And then I wanted to make sure I put Joshua and Caleb's name in there, and I still want to get some grapes in there to remind me of the giant fruit that they found in the land, to show how fertile it was. The land was extremely fortified too. The forts that the people had were, archaeologists found later that some of the forts there were 30 feet high and 10 to 15 feet wide. The walls were very wide. So they knew they had a lot in front of them. But we can admire Joshua and Caleb for having that much faith that God would carry them through. And I thought the cluster looked better on top of this verse, because I really didn't want to take too much away from this background, because the background is gorgeous. I'm going to speed up while I put the rest of the elements on here. I want to mark that this is Moses' prayer. So I'm going to include that. I think I can't decide whether I'm going to do white or black, but I wanted to put it sideways so it'll fit better. And I think black is going to be better. Get this straightened out. And I wanted to add the words men of faith, to point out Joshua and Caleb. Stick a little bird on the H in faith. And I'm playing with a vine that I don't think I like. I need to go get the grapes before I forget. Okay, I'm going to add a stroke around the 12 spies to see if that'll make it pop more. And now I'm looking for a ribbon from another kit from the Exodus era. And I have the grapes. I think I'm going to put these grapes around a verse. And I wanted to add that ribbon on the tag. Now I need to add a few drop shadows. And then lower the opacity on the drop shadows for the word art, because what comes with Photoshop element shadows is too big for most word art. And then I'm going to clip it so I can share it online in the Facebook group. And I decided the last minute I'm going to move the grapes a little bit, maybe even make it like a cluster, because it is a cluster of grapes, pardon the pun, and move that to the other side and make it part of the title. There we go. And that's it. I will just a tiny bit of tweaking. And I hope this helps you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask and answer them in the Facebook group. A little bit of tweaking. I always go through this. And now I'm saving at 1500 width with my BJD, as I always do in my Exodus era. Bye-bye.